Hello and welcome to Demo Days. Before we begin, we'd like to move into a little bit of housekeeping, but now to start, thank you for joining us. Feel free to share any comments, inquiries, or chat from the presentation today. We'd love to hear where you're from, what you're interested in, or what intrigued you to the webinar, anything you'd like to share, and we'll tackle questions at the end. This session is intended for xMatters customers or prospective customers of xMatters, as well as AWS. It is subject to all fair use policies and other terms and conditions available at xmatters.com. I'm your host, Rutuja Rajwade, and with me are Eric Maxwell and Tiberiu Oprisiu. Eric is a solutions architect with xMatters, and previous to xMatters, he spent 8 years at a large hardware corporation going through a digital transformation. He has held roles as a product manager, managing SREs, operations, and implementing DevOps concepts. He's worked on a range of projects, including platform transformations from on-prem cloud to converting containers and implementing microservices. Originally from Phoenix, Tiberiu Oprisiu is a solutions architect at AWS. He is now based in the sweltering city called Phoenix, Arizona. Within AWS, he works at the worldwide public sector space, and previous to AWS, he had a wide array of experiences within the tech industry, ranging from IT director all the way to CTO or co-founder. He's a bit of a thrill seeker, so during his free time, he enjoys taking his car to the racetrack as much as possible. Now that I've introduced everyone, you can see why we brought everyone together. Today, we're focused on helping you meet some specific challenges when monitoring. When an incident hits, do your on-call resolvers have the right data to resolve problems? Or maybe you only have one piece of the puzzle, so your service and your business teams aren't getting the full picture. Maybe you're having issues connecting people with data. And if I were to boil it down to one main point, and a common result of these types of challenges is that your teams are drowning in alerts and unable to maximize efficiency and resolve issues fast. And if you're struggling to work through any one of those issues, your mean time to identify, to respond, and/or to resolve is going to suffer. This technology demonstration you're about to see addresses those very issues. What you need is an operational monitoring and observability platform and smart notifications working with signal intelligence, and you need the ability to leverage end-to-end automation. And this is why today we are bringing xMatters and AWS together. I will pass it over to Tiberiu to go into some facts about observability at AWS.
So as you mentioned, my name is Tiberiu Oprisiu, and I'm a partner solutions architect here at AWS. I work within the observability realm, and I was brought on to help bring you up to speed on some of the solutions that AWS has. So what is the agenda of what I want to cover? Well, first I want to talk about some business imperatives that are actually driving observability within our customers. Then I want to talk about the what, why, and how of monitoring and observability within AWS. And finally, we're going to finish that with a quick demonstration within the console of some of the services and features that you would have. So what are some of the business goals that are driving observability? Well, as business leaders, you need to focus on the strategic objectives that are most important to your organization's success. AWS observability tools allow you to have the visibility you need in your application, user experience, and user behavior to ensure that your organization can effectively deliver against these strategic objectives. So what are some of them? Well, you want to grow new revenue streams. So with AWS, you can rapidly test and iterate new ideas, create new products and services, and reduce your time to market. Application performance monitoring is critical to the success of this. Then you could increase operational efficiency. So when you move to AWS, you realize business benefits beyond just infrastructure cost savings. Your IT and R&D staff become more productive through the use of AWS Cloud Management Services. Here, AWS observability tools can help you reduce your mean time to resolution, or MTTR, to maximize your operational efficiency. Finally, you want to lower your business risk. So every industry has its own unique sources of application risks that can affect your supply chain, product quality, brand, financing, customers, and even partners. With AWS observability solutions, you can detect and respond to these risks, and as more of the operations, product, and services rely on digital technology, your business value also depends on managing availability, security, and compliance risks. AWS observability tools allow AWS customers to reduce the time it takes to detect issues, thereby reducing the overall cost of downtime and the risk associated with it. So what is observability? Well, observability gives you the ability to efficiently detect, remediate, and investigate. This can and should improve your operational availability, or rather reduce your MTTR. So first is the detection portion. Often customers don't detect issues as soon as they begin. There's typically a lag from when an issue starts and when you're notified. You want to reduce this as much as possible. Detection should be proactive and multifaceted. Anomaly detection is going to be a key tool in the toolbox, as well as the ability to link together related alarms to reduce alarm fatigue. Next, you want to investigate. So investigation is where people spend most of the amount of time during an operational event. This is going to be the largest contributor to mean time to resolution, or MTTR. Cutting through the chaos and understanding what to focus on is really important and remains a difficult task for many customers. You want to leverage logs, metrics, and tracing to help you investigate quickly to understand the root cause. To perform this correlation across the metrics, logs, and traces is key. Your time is extremely valuable, and you need to ensure that you're focusing on the stuff that matters during an operational event. Now, once you have detected the event and investigated, you want to remediate it. This could be a short-term fix or patch, or even just a rollback. The idea is you want to try to automate the deployments and changes as much as possible. There's nothing worse than trying to fix something and making the situation worse. Also, don't forget to perform a post-event analysis so you can determine how you could have prevented the failure in the first place. Your goal should be to ensure that the same issue never happens again. But if it does, you can identify and remediate it automatically. So what are the foundational components of observability? Well, as you can see on the screen, there are metrics, logs, and traces. These are equally important and are key components of observability. Metrics are useful for identifying trends and modeling and performing predictions. Logs are useful for uncovering emergent and unpredictable behavior. Traces. These are different than logs and metrics that are going to be system-centric. Traces are user-centric. They provide visibility into the path that a user has traversed. So how does AWS enable observability? Well, there are 4 types of monitoring which enables us to do so. There's infrastructure, AWS services, application performance, and end user. These are supported by the foundational components of metrics, logs, and traces, which I went over in the previous slide. So for infrastructure, we have VMs, containers, and operating systems. They are more of the traditional source of metrics and logs, and they're going to remain an important piece to the puzzle. For example, resource utilization by services within a container cluster, processes within an operating system, application system logs are all examples of infrastructure monitoring, and they're going to remain an important part to your observability strategy. Then we have AWS services. So a majority of our services automatically publish metrics and logs to Amazon CloudWatch. With many AWS services, you are abstracted from the management of the underlying infrastructure. The monitoring of these services is enabled through CloudWatch and vended monitoring. Then application performance. So building upon infrastructure and AWS services, you're running applications. Understanding how your applications are performing is key to ensuring that your customers are having a good experience. This is where tracing and code profiling come into play. As mentioned on the previous slide, tracing is user-centric, and being able to correlate traces with metrics and logs gives us one of the key ways to achieve observability. And last but not least is end-user monitoring, or rather, understanding what your user is experiencing. With an outside-in view, you get better visibility into performance and availability, so they can become aware of and fix any issues quicker than ever before. So now that we went over some of the foundation components to observability, I wanted to quickly dive into some of the key services at AWS. As you can see here, there are 2 ways to achieve observability within AWS. You can choose to go through the AWS native or open source approach. With the AWS native approach, CloudWatch is a foundational piece of observability. Combined with Service Lens, Insights, Synthetics, Logs, and X-Ray, it provides you with the capabilities across all 4 areas of monitoring. Now, many of our customers have an open source preference or mandate, and we want to support those customers as well. As such, we have invested in this area heavily. With AWS Distro for OpenTelemetry, Elasticsearch, Prometheus, and Grafana, you can more easily attain your open source monitoring goal than if you attempted it all by yourself. So now that I've gone over this, I want to quickly go into the console so I can show you some of these services and features that are available. Let me just quickly switch my screen. So here we have the CloudWatch Dashboard. And we actually already went to the service map. What service map is when you instrument your application to use our service called X-Ray, which performs the tracing portion of it, it's going to build this map for you. What does this map show? Well, it shows you all the individual components within your application all the individual services that your application is touching. As you can see here, this ECS container is calling step functions, which is calling a Lambda, or it can call other step functions. But all of that is automatically put into the screen for you. And as you can see, it is a very visual interface. So you can quickly look into this and see if there's any potential issues. Now, if we zoom in a little bit, we can see that there are these red lines next to these icons. What do those mean? Well, if you go to the legend, we can see canaries with faults or errors. That would indicate that something is going wrong within that specific portion. Now, how do you investigate it further? Well, you would click on the node, and that automatically opens this bottom section here. Some metrics are going to provide a quick view of what is happening. There are other metrics you can utilize, but these are the ones that are configured to jump out. As you can see here, at around 6 local time, there was some faults present within our application, pretty high. So we may want to see what was happening. What we can do is we can, at that point, click View Traces button. What's going to happen is this is going to open up a search feature within our console. And now this is performing a search on all of our traces that match this step function and this type this type of state machine within step functions. Now we are specifically looking for those faults. And if we scroll down, we can see that all of these actually have an okay result. But we want to specify and find that specific one that was having issues. Well, what can we do? Well, if we look on the right side, we can see that there's a queries tab. Once you click that, it'll provide you with some default searches you can utilize. As I mentioned, we're trying to find faults. So if we go to scroll a little bit down, we can see that it demonstrates how we can search for faults by providing an example. And what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this portion and add it to our search function. And we're going to run that query. Now it's going through all of the traces, and using the criteria we have entered, it's going to provide us with the specific trace that had that fault. And as you can see, only one trace has been retrieved. Well, if we scroll down, we can actually see that trace. Now let's investigate further. So we click into it. Now zoom out a little bit. Now we are within that specific trace detail. And within each trace detail, we also have a trace map, which again, this is going to be a visual interface for you to help you identify when there are issues and help you know where they are. So if we go through this map, we can see everything looks fine up until we get to this red icon. On top of these red icons. What does that mean? Well, that means that the fault is present within it. Now we probably want to look into it a little bit further and see what is actually happening. Potentially, we could even see the error code. Well, if we scroll down, we can actually see the segment timeline for this specific trace. Everything looks fine so far. We keep scrolling down. And then finally, we're going to get to the bottom section where we can actually see the fault that was causing that error. So now we know we have a rough idea of where it is. We may want to find out the actual error code that was returned so we can dig a little deeper and figure out what we could have done to resolve this in the future. Well, if we click on these specific portions, what's going to happen is this is going to open the segment details for that specific section. And it provides the start time, end time, duration, and so forth. But if you click on the exceptions tab, it'll show you the actual error code that was returned by that portion. So you can use this to really start digging deeper into the fault and identifying what you could be doing to resolve it for future situations. It's the same when you go to the other portions as well. Now, I did mention that there are metrics, logs, and traces. So for the logs portion, if you scroll down, you can see all of the logs within this specific trace. And since we instrumented the application to use X-Ray, it automatically correlates all of the logs with that associated trace on the bottom. So now you can actually see what was being produced by the application. So you can, again, dig deeper and identify where it could be potentially happening. Now, let's say this issue was related to a database, or rather SQL query. Well, one of the benefits of X-Ray is it will also log the actual query that you're running. So within this segment, we know that we can see here that we made a SQL query. We can get a rough idea of how it looks, but we still don't have that much information. So we're going to click on this, scroll back down. Now we can click on a SQL tab and see the actual SQL query that was ran. Not the specific one, but the sanitized query one. So let's say the issue was with the SQL query. It could be related to there's an index issue, or even just the database is just being overloaded. But the idea is, using this, you can dig deeper and find out exactly what was going on with an application that caused the error. If it's a SQL query, you can see the SQL query, and then go into the database and potentially dig deeper and see what could be potentially causing the issues. So now, another portion I did want to talk about is alarms. This is extremely important to observability, because you can keep an eye on the application, but there's no way you can watch it 24/7. So you need to set up alarms to notify you whenever something happens. And there is one specific feature that I wanted to touch upon. So if you go into the alarm section, we can see that we have two alarms within here. What we can do with these is if we go into view metrics, we will see the actual metric that is triggering that alarm. Now, let's say this metric jumps around a lot, so it'll be decently difficult to set a specific threshold for when you want to be notified. Well, we have a feature called anomaly detection. What does that do? That essentially looks at the historical data and then predicts what and where the metric should be. And how do you enable that? Well, once you have the metric within this view, you can click on this anomaly detection button, and it's going to create the anomaly detection band within that metric. As you can see here, it will still have notified us within a couple of these portions because they went over the norm. But we know that everything was fine, let's just say. So we want to widen the band just to not be notified whenever there isn't actually an issue. Well, what you can do is you can go to the section that has anomaly detection band and modify it. The 2 talks about how many standard deviations away from the away that it will look at. Right now we have it set to 2 standard deviations. It all depends on what is best for your application, but let's just say we want to set it to 5. Once we click apply, now we can see none of these would have triggered an alarm because it is the expected result. And we know that because we know the application. Obviously, you can change it for your specific situation and determine what's best for you, but you have this capability built in within the console. So now, let's say we have an alarm. There are a couple different ways to manage that alarm and automate the workflows. And for that portion, I wanted to hand it off to Eric.
Thanks, Tiberiu. So as Tiberiu was talking about, we have this observability and the monitoring options. We have an AWS and all the features we have for monitoring our applications and services. But what do we do when something does go wrong? How do we combine? So how can we further automate our process and notify the people that can help us, especially when we need some human intervention, right? So that's where we're going to combine the AWS tools with xMatters platform, and we will automate our incident process. So I'm going to start here in what we call Flow Designer. This is in the xMatters platform. This is our low-code orchestration tool. So we were talking about, Tiberiu was talking about alarms. So in this case, I'm taking in alarms from CloudWatch, and those alarms come in here on our trigger, what we call trigger in our flow. And we have various steps that we can combine there. Once we have a trigger, we can combine steps together to build out our process and automate various steps. First part here, I'm just parsing out some details out of that alarm. But then the first major thing that happens is I have this switch that's making a decision based on some of the parameters. And in this case, I'm determining what type of alarm it is, right? Or what state the alarm is in. Sorry, not what type it is, but what state is it in? Is it an alert, or is AWS letting us know that this alarm is now in the OK state, right? So I'm going to take the alert state first. So this is obviously when we get an alert, it's new, and what we want to do with that, right? So in this case, I'm actually first going to post some information into a Slack channel. So I have this channel in Slack for my alerts, and I've posted some information here about that alarm. I can format this. I can include whatever information I like, but the idea is we just want to post, let everyone know that, hey, there is this alarm that is that has been triggered, right? But we don't, just notifying a group of people is not really going to help us get it resolved, and it's not going to help us get it resolved quickly, right? So we need to notify people in a more targeted way. So the next thing that happens is we're going to send a notification out. We're not just going to send a notification to a group of people. One, we're going to take information from that alarm to determine who needs to be notified, which group of people need to notify. And then we're also going to use, in combination with xMatters, on-call scheduling and escalation to also determine who needs to be targeted within that group, right? So if we just target a group of people, you get that. We want to give a sense of responsibility and ownership, right? If we just target a group of people, everyone's busy and they're just going to assume someone else is going to fix it, right? So we want to target someone. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to send a notification out and target those people. So I'm actually going to bring my phone up over here. You'll see that I have received this notification because I was the person in the group that was targeted, and I'm the person that's on call or primary for this group at this time. So I've received this notification. You'll see that it has similar information there about the alert that was received. And again, I'm using the xMatters app in this case, where it's a push notification. This can also be a text message, an email, a voice alert. It could be all the above, and we can actually escalate through those as well when we notify someone. But this information that we're including, again, you can customize and format and determine which information you want to include in your notification. But the next thing we'll notice is we have several options here, response options. We can see them in the Flow Designer as well. I'm actually going to pick Acknowledge. And if we look over on Flow Designer, we'll see that here's our response. So the first thing that did was let xMatters know that I'm taking ownership of this notification, and you can stop the escalation process. The next thing I did is I have a flow connected to this. So that flow is actually then posting some more information into Slack. So if I go back, we'll see here there's a reply to that alert. So we have that alert in our alerts channel, that message, and we can see that it says that Eric has acknowledged that alarm or that notification, right? I have several other options I could escalate. So that means if I was busy, I could escalate immediately to the next person instead of waiting through the escalation process. I could close it. Maybe I looked at it and this isn't, this alarm is not that critical. So I'm just going to close out the notification and stop the escalation process. But then I finally have another option to initiate an incident. And that's where we'll start now. But before we do that, I just want to make clear, you can, these options you can customize to fit your process. You can name them whatever you like. You can connect whatever flows you like to them, and also configure their behavior as far as escalation and those options as well. So let's pick initiate incident. All right, so you'll see that my notification, my alarm notification is now gone, so we no longer need that one. So this, the first thing it did was actually this response ends that notification for us. But now it's actually kicked off another flow for us. The first thing it does is it's posting to our channel again. So if we look, we'll see there's some more replies. So I've initiated the incident, and then our incident was created, and there was a channel created as well for our incident. So let me open the incident real quick, and we'll see that we have our xMatters. So I'm using xMatters incident management. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. You can check out our xMatters YouTube channel for more detail. But you'll see that it has the alarm information in it. But again, you can customize it, whatever you would like to put in it. And we have our Slack channel, and it's in the open state. And currently I'm the incident commander. I have it set up to assign it to me because I was the incident commander. And we can see that it has started a notification to this AWS demo group. And we'll see that that notification, well, before I get to that, let's go back through the flow just to see exactly what everything that's happening. So there's our, we're creating that incident. I have some pieces here based on the, or some flows based on the status of that incident, and I'll come back to those in a moment. But there's that incident channel I just showed you. It was associated to our xMatters incident. We posted some information there and updated our alerts channel. So that's where we updated our alerts channel. And if I actually go to our incident channel, you can see here, star this so I can get to it easier. But you'll see now I have this incident channel that's specifically created for this incident, right? So I've posted a little bit of information here, a link to the incident. Again, you can customize what you want to include or post into that channel, right? And then finally, we sent out another notification, and we saw where that AWS group was being notified within the incident. It showed that. And we can see that incident here on my phone. So again, I have some information here about the incident, a link to it. I have information from that original alarm in there as well. And then it has a couple of options here, assign to me and escalate. So I'm actually going to pick escalate just to show you what happened. So I was again notified this group was targeted. I was there, I was the primary, but I'm going to escalate to the next person, which I know is going to be Kevin. So I'm going to switch to Kevin, and we'll see that now he has just received a notification about it. So if I would have waited for the escalation policy, it would have automatically escalated to him if I hadn't responded, but I was busy, so I went ahead and escalated to him. So our other option is to assign to me. So I'm going to actually go ahead and pick that. So do that. And we'll see that again, this one is going to let xMatters know, hey, you can stop the escalation process, but I also have this flow here that's updating our incident, and it's also posting some information into Slack, right? So here's Kevin has taken ownership. And if we go to our incident, it is now in progress, and Kevin is now the commander, and we can see that it shows that he was the one that responded from that group. All right. One of the other options I said I would come back is on our incident. We have about the in progress, right? So we're posting into that channel again based on the status change, right? So if I go back to my alerts channel, you'll see, or that original message in the alerts channel, you'll see that it is letting us know that that incident is now in progress. That's kicked off by that state change. All right, so we're in here working on our incident. Well, let's see. Working on it. Let's see. I think I see the problem. Deploying update. All right. So we're here using our channel, our incident channel, to help us collaborate with each other, right? And that we're all collaborating in a single location that helps us make sure that we're bringing everyone is aware of what's going on, and we're working together. So I've just deployed an update to help fix our problem. So I'm going to actually go back to the beginning of our flow here. And so what's going to happen is now AWS is going to see that our state of our service has gone back to a normal state. Our alarm is going to go to that OK state, and it's going to send xMatters another update letting us know that that alarm is now in the OK state. And we're going to follow this new path, right, where we're this clear path that now the alarm has cleared. So the first thing we're doing is checking to see if there are any events within xMatters that are open related to that incident. If we find any, we're going to follow this path. Which one is going to terminate those events for us, and then it's also going to update our incident, in this case, resolve it for us. And then if I go back to that incident, right? Remember, I had several based on incident status, and that was resolved. So when it's resolved, it's going to go through and actually grab that conversation from our incident channel, post that into a note in our incident, and actually archive that for us, and then it's going to update it at that alerts channel for us. So let's check here and see if our incident, so now we've gotten our update. We see our incident is now resolved. Right? And if I check the notes, we'll see here's that chat history. Here's where I was typing into or I was, chatting within that incident Slack channel. And if I go into Slack, you see our incident channel is now gone, or it's been archived. And so I could actually see here, it's now been archived. So it's in the archive state. So it did some automatic cleanup for us, right? So that now, we've resolved our incident, everything's clear. So now we've seen how AWS observability and monitoring tools in combination with xMatters has helped us further automate our incident process, right? To reduce that toil and to lower our MTTR. So I'm going to pass back over to Rutuja for some closing things, and I think some Q&A as well.
Thank you, Eric. As you can see, xMatters and AWS deliver. An additional benefit here is that we believe in extending the value of existing applications that you use every day. These tools can work together as a wonderful complement. And now we'll move on to some questions from the chat and the queue. So my first question, and Tiberiu or Eric, feel free to take on this one. How difficult is it to set up the integration?
So I'll take that, obviously. So as far as setting up the integration, the flow that I was showing actually started out from a template that we provide, and that template is something that we've built based on how our customers use that integration. So I started from that template, and I just started adding things. So you saw things like this Slack, posting things in the Slack, things like that. So I added that to that AWS template. The template that we provide, right? So as far as the configuration goes, on the AWS side, you saw where Tiberiu was setting up. Basically, we're just setting up an SNS notification into that xMatters trigger that you saw in the workflow that I was demonstrating.
Great. And then another question that we have is, does it matter which AWS monitoring or observability tools we use when integrating with xMatters?
No, it doesn't. So again, as I was just stating, that in this case, in the demo, we were using CloudWatch, right? So as Tiberiu was demonstrating, the various observability monitoring tools, that those alarms go through CloudWatch. And so it doesn't really matter which AWS tools you're using. We can send that and we can still automate a process and our incident management notifications through xMatters.
Awesome. Well, as stated before, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box and we can take them at the end of the webinar. So for some final housekeeping, both AWS and xMatters offer the ability to experience the platform for yourself. You can get xMatters for free by signing up at xmatters.com/signup. You can also try AWS for free by signing up at aws.amazon.com/free. Be sure to remember that we have more webinars on the horizon, several each month. You can visit xmatters.com/demo-days to see the complete list of webinars. You can also track us down online. Follow on your channel of choice, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, where we share even more and would love to connect with you. And that concludes today's demo days. Thank you again to Eric and Tiberiu, and to our guests. Thank you for joining us. This concludes today's session. Have a wonderful day.